thanks to all the hardworking drivers across the U.S. from the Allen Lund Company.
Welcome to Trucking with OOIDA. I'm Scott Thompson.
I'm Ashley Blackford.
Ashley, how are we doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing just fine. We have a lot to cover today, and we won't waste a lot of time before getting to our special guest. He's been here before.
He's been here before, but he is special.
He is special. Todd Spencer, President of OOIDA. And we're bringing him in because the association recently sent a letter to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. It is related to non-domiciled CDLs. This is a topic that really has been, I think, the topic.
Hot topic for sure.
Very hot topic over recent months. And a question that we have been getting from time to time is, what is OOIDA doing about this?
Yes.
So we're going to talk to Todd about this. This letter is partially what they're doing.
Yeah.
Again, of course, the association doesn't have the
power
they
don't have superpowers,
that
but
some people might want them to have.
Yeah.
But they're using the power they do have to reach out and try and get the Department of Transportation to take some action on this issue. So we'll talk to Todd about that. Looking forward to that conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Also going to, a little bit later on, talk to Lindsey Trent from the Next Generation in Trucking Association.
Yeah, really interesting association.
It is, and they're doing great work.
Yeah.
And I think Lindsey was on a panel discussion with Louis Pugh, our Executive Vice President, a few months ago, talking about driver recruitment.
Yeah.
And the challenges that are out there for driver recruitment, getting younger people into the industry, getting them interested in the industry.
Yeah.
That is what this association does.
Yeah. I'll be curious to talk to her and see, what works and what doesn't. But before that, we want to get to Mr. Todd Spencer.
Yeah, let's not waste any time. Todd Spencer, again, non-domiciled CDLs is the issue. OOIDA taking action on this. And this, I feel like, is going to be the first step in a big journey here toward fixing this problem. Let's get right to it. So, Ashley, we've talked about this quite a bit. When I was at the Mid-America Trucking Show a few months ago, it seemed like the question that kept popping up over and over again for the FMCSA officials that were there, the USDOT officials that were there as well, is, what are you going to do about this non-domiciled CDL issue? And it's something that I think has only gained steam in recent months since then. Clearly on the collective radar of federal officials. And now OOIDA is calling for action in a letter that was sent to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. And joining us to discuss that letter is the man who signed it, OOIDA President Todd Spencer. Todd, always good to see you.
Hey, glad to be part of the show.
Let's start with this letter here because I think it's important that we get this out there and the request that OOIDA is making in this letter, Todd. What specifically are you calling on Secretary Duffy and the Transportation Department to do?
Basically, to rescind the authority that they gave states to issue non-domiciled CDLs. It was a bad idea. And it's a bad idea in thought, and it's certainly shown to be a bad idea in practice. And that authority needs to be pulled back.
Now, ultimately, this comes down to safety. I know we've talked about that, along with training standards and better oversight of that training, right?
Oh, yeah. It's safety. It's a whole lot more, though, because realistically, we find ourselves in a situation where states are passing out CDLs to people that they really have virtually no idea who the hell they're giving the licenses to. And that should not be. The system needs to be thorough, top to bottom, clearly demonstrating that the driver is qualified in a lot more areas than we're currently testing for and training for right now. That whole system needs to be much, much more rigorous. But again, we don't know who we're actually giving this CDL to, where they're from, what their background is. And
which is insane if you
well, absolutely.
when you put it that way.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
It is, yeah.
And again, we're talking about a lot of responsibility. And you should be legal in every way. And the only way, if you can't do a background check, and when I say a background check, a 10-year background check is what's required. And if you're not certain who you're giving out authority to do whatever it is that they want to do, that's nuts. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
You're asking the USDOT essentially to kind of hit the pause button while we kind of can take a look at everything and the way it's going, right?
And
they've got that power.
Well, the administration says they're going to do a nationwide audit of state practices. That's great. Do it. But in the meantime, quit issuing these CDLs.
Yeah.
Quit issuing them, because it's already clearly beyond question that many of them that are being handed out are certainly questionable, whether they should be, whether the people meet their criteria.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't know if you're going to have the answer to this, because I don't know if there is an answer to this. But again, the situation that you're describing is a situation that we've all kind of been watching unfold in recent months, especially. How did we get here? Like, at what point did somebody or some people look at this situation and decide that this was a good idea or an okay thing to do? Again, I don't know if you have the answer to this, but it hasn't always been like this, right? Or maybe it has.
Well, no.
No, okay.
No. I'm going to say it hasn't always been this way because, the regulations, the original CDL regulations basically said you would have one license and it would be issued by your state of residence. Your state of residence, not anywhere else. Now, this goes back to about 2017, 2018. Some entities, we're not certain who, approached FMCSA about issuing these non-domiciled CDLs to drivers that were, in essence, from one state, and they would go to another state to get their training, their CDL training. And, of course, the state that does the training is supposed to be the one that issues the license. And this was basically to facilitate carriers basically running through driver training programs in one state, not their resident state. So they would get a license from a state that they weren't residents of. And, the way previous would be somebody would get their training and they would go back to their home state to get their CDL issued.
Right.
So this whole idea was supposedly to speed up this process. And we opposed that effort because we suspected this is really all about basically trying to speed up bringing in new folks and probably taking advantage of people that while you've got them on the hook,
right?
While you've got them on the hook, then you sign the deal for the CDL. Mm-hmm. So don't give them the opportunity to go back home and think about what they've just done. So
right. Yeah, this feels like something that had again, I'm going to use air quotes as I do every time, the driver shortage narrative. It feels like it has something to do maybe with this idea of just getting people in trucks.
Certainly. And I've also, since this has been more in the news in the area, I'm also aware that there were some efforts made to allow drivers from Puerto Rico that had basically been displaced by the hurricanes that hit down in Puerto Rico some years back, that would allow them to leave Puerto Rico and come to the mainland and drive interstate commerce. So, which would seem like not an unreasonable thing to do. But I don't want to lose sight of the real issue involved here. In every instance where somebody's going to be given a CDL, they have got to be able to document. And they actually have to go through real training and real testing.
Yeah, which is what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's a safety issue.
The background checks, and if they're not authorized to be in this country, they sure as hell don't need a CDL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is where you do all of the checking and you do all of the training for virtually almost all of OOIDA's existence. We've been advocates for better, more comprehensive driver training. So new drivers, when they get their CDL, are actually adequately prepared for what they will need to be able to do to have a job in trucking. And right now, it's kind of a joke. It used to be when the CDL first came out, some said that, I can kind of remember the slogans that went around from government and others, only the best will drive. Well, come on. What the CDL did was it immediately let carriers know and schools know this is what you need to teach so they can get a CDL.
Get them in and get them out.
That's right. Quick.
Yeah.
And this goes back decades now, but there was this thing created called the Professional Truck Driver Institute. And the Professional Truck Driver Institute was created because of the perception that trucking had an image problem, and that what could trucking do to most directly and impactfully improve its image? Well, the conclusion of players of basically every economic stripe within trucking, that's truck makers, that's everybody, was elevate the standards of entry-level drivers coming into the industry. That was the conclusion. And it was embraced broadly by everyone other than trucking companies.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to end up having to pay for better trained people.
Yeah.
So they gambled, and they're doing it still. It's the quickest training for the first time ever after, again, we're talking about decades of us pushing lawmakers to do this. Back about 3 years ago now, we were finally able to get some basic minimal driver training requirements that had to be tested, that had to be trained for. And that's what's in place now. But again, these are absolutely minimal.
Yeah.
There are a lot of demands on drivers. You need to be good at what you do. And the idea of just putting people out that are untrained or undertrained, we see people do dumb stuff on the roadways. We have no idea how much preparation training they had to undergo. Well, we shouldn't be guessing about stuff like that.
When you talk about the gamble,
Want to be sure.
we're the ones who are paying for it, the collective we.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And, and at any rate, this opens it just opens up how bad this situation is and how important it is that we've got to fix it.
Yeah.
Now, the letter was sent to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. I'm curious, has there been any response from the USDOT yet?
Well, not directly to us. However, this is certainly a matter of public discussion at DOT. I know Secretary Duffy's talking about it and talking about the importance of it. Now, I should elaborate here. The CDL requirements are basically put together in Washington, and then they're passed on to states. The CDL is a state license, so states have to adopt the recommendations that come out of D.C. They have to adopt them and implement them themselves, and that's probably playing a role now in what's going on. We've gone farther than just the correspondence with Secretary Duffy in that we're right now in the process of reaching out to each state's governor. These are the people that have the immediate ability to suspend issuance of non-domiciled CDLs. They can do it right now, and they should. Because again, if you're not certain that the credential that you're passing out is going to the person that has the right qualifications or any qualifications at all, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Now, and again, it's on the states, and they need to do it.
I want to make sure we kind of underline that and put it in bold, because I have seen questions on social media and elsewhere. Ashley, I know you have as well. Todd, I'm sure you have too. People asking this kind of direct question, again, based on the frustration that they have about this non-domiciled CDL issue. The question being, what is OOIDA doing about this? And again, I want to make sure we bold and underline this, because there's only so much power. If you had the power, Todd, right now to do away with any number of things, you would do it, right? There are a lot of dumb regulations out there and dumb things that are being done. This is, I think, a good example of what the association is doing in using its power in reaching out directly to Transportation Secretary Duffy, who has been very responsive to the association over recent months, and then again, reaching out to the states to educate them and tell them that this is a real problem. You can get a handle on it. This is what you have to do. So if you could just answer that question, kind of, what is OOIDA doing here and what that looks like, this outreach, because it's important.
Well, clearly in each, the CDL is a state document. And basically, I suppose the top controlling authority at state level would be the governor. And we're reaching out and, again, asking governors to suspend issuance of these CDLs. They shouldn't be issuing them.
Yeah.
And, and of course, truckers can play a role in this thing, too, in that every driver out there that's listening to this, you have a state lawmaker and you have a state assembly person or representative or whatever, or a senator at the state level. Reach out to them. Tell them to encourage their governor to suspend issuance of any non-domiciled CDLs and make them aware of what's going on in Washington with the Secretary of Transportation and that this is an important issue. Each lawmaker, these are your state folks.
Yep.
And everybody's got two, a state rep and a state senator. Let them know that this is a priority. And when you communicate with them, if it's by phone or by email or letter, the last thing you say is, by the way, there ain't no driver shortage. There ain't no driver shortage. That's just BS.
Keep that conversation going for sure. And to that point too, I think it's important because we just had this high-profile crash in Florida. 3 people were killed. It appears to have been caused by a truck driver who entered the U.S. illegally in 2018. We don't have to hash out all the details here because we've got, various people kind of going back and forth. But again, when you reach out to your lawmakers on the state level, federal level, whatever that may look like, they're probably going to be aware of this situation, and you can use it as a kind of an entry point to say, this is exactly the kind of thing that we are trying to prevent, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's an important issue. And again, the whole idea of whoever's behind the wheel of a truck, there shouldn't be anybody in it wondering whether or not the person that's behind that wheel is qualified to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
Can you imagine anybody getting on a plane and well, we hope this guy can fly this plane.
He says he can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're talking about a situation where you're driving a
80,000
weapon.
pounds.
Yeah. I mean, essentially it's a weapon here.
Yeah.
It's crazy. As we look at the situation, I think it's important also to point out too that you are passionate about this, Todd, and you have strong feelings about it. And a lot of people out there have strong feelings about it as well. And to your point too, I think collectively, if we were to come together and make those phone calls and educate people on what the deal is out there, because a lot of people don't understand this issue necessarily.
No.
Right?
No. Well, they assume
that
the appropriate steps for safety have been taken. They assume that because they hope people with some sense are calling the shots.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And again, and in instances like this, truckers are required. Are required to provide 10 years worth of background that can be checked and verified. 3 years from their most recent employer. So, and these are, you got to check the data. And again, satisfy yourself that this is somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the states have to do that before they pass out the CDL. And, having said that, we're talking about CDLs and we're talking about drivers, but, the other issue that we raised with Secretary Duffy is that basically FMCSA needs to do a whole lot better job of scrutinizing those people that they allow to go into business. And that's carriers, that's brokers. Right now, there's virtually no scrutiny whatsoever that goes on. It allows chameleon carriers to basically keep turning into close their doors and come back as somebody else, just like that.
Yeah.
And, and we can spot those. Other people can spot those.
Why can't FMCA
Well, that's right.
spot them?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because the bad guys are going to always be the bad guys. They're going to look for the loopholes, and they're pretty good at finding loopholes.
Mm-hmm.
And let's close them.
Yeah.
Let's close them, because if you're going to authorize somebody to go into business and handle large amounts of money and property, precious cargoes, you need to know who you're given authority to do that. It's a responsibility on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if you're a betting man, Todd, but again, we've seen a very positive response from the Transportation Department in recent months. English language proficiency, out of service criteria, truck parking. We've seen a number of issues that they have taken action on in recent months. If you were a betting man, and maybe you are, but if you were a betting man, would you put your money on there being some positive change on this in the coming months? It seems like the momentum is pushing it that direction.
Well, yeah, but you still have to apply pressure.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to apply pressure because you've got the issue, you got the ball rolling. You got to keep it going, because folks have a tendency, lawmakers especially, they're pretty good at responding to what they perceive as a crisis.
Yeah. Chase the shiny thing.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And of course, we have to keep the pressure on. And of course, we're pretty pleased with some of the things that have come out of DOT under Secretary Duffy and with this administration. But some of this stuff is also going to require action on the part of Congress.
Right.
So, because the agency can't do anything that they're not authorized to do by Congress.
Right.
Congress ultimately sets the priorities for everything at DOT.
Well, I think Governor DeSantis said something to that effect recently, too, about that particular crash, and saying Congress right now, they've got the power of the purse. They could start penalizing states that are issuing these non-domiciled CDLs and.
Well, again, states aren't required to issue them. And, not all do, but they have the authority to do that. So, and again, we're pointing that out to the governors, that you don't have to issue those. You can decide not to.
Mm-hmm.
And you always could. Now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
Until we can figure out, whether any of these, until we can be certain that the people that we're giving this credential to are good actors.
Right. And we don't know that right now.
That's right.
That's a problem. Yeah. I feel like we're kind of in the first chapter of something, in terms of seeing some positive change on this. Todd, you're always generous with your time, and we thank you for working on this issue as well. Before we let you go, any final thoughts for people out there listening who, again, may be frustrated as everybody else is?
The issue of proper training and qualifications of drivers coming into this industry, this is basically the basis for everything in trucking. And the higher those standards are, the more value a driver brings to the table. And when I say that, I'm saying that better trained people are more likely to want and deserve more money. And of course, there will be folks out there that'll say, "Oh my God, we don't want to pay anymore." Well, listen, the paying more comes back in professionalism. It comes back in safety. It comes back in no claims, that kind of stuff. And, safety pays off. And paying drivers pays off.
Mm-hmm.
And, this notion that's been basically way too prevalent in trucking ever since deregulation is that we've got to find the cheapest, the lowest cost drivers that we can. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. And, again, improving the productivity of drivers, addressing the parking issues, addressing the issues of drivers being detained at shippers and receivers. You take all of the inefficiencies out of trucking, and whether you pay drivers more or not, if they're more productive, they end up making more money.
Yeah.
Efficiency is improved overall.
Yeah.
So, and let's do it instead of just looking for, what don't cost much.
Right.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it is nuts,
Yeah.
and it's what we see all the time. Todd, again, I think your call to action here is important, and anybody listening, reach out to your state lawmakers, reach out to your federal lawmakers, let them know what this issue means to you and your livelihood and to actual lives out there, and let's build on this momentum. Todd, we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you, and thank all the OOIDA members listening. You guys make it all possible.
And for everyone listening, you can check out fightingfortruckers.com to find out who your lawmaker is. And I think on there, there's their contact information. You can email them, call them, and let them know your thoughts and feelings. And like Todd said, adding a little PS, there is no driver shortage.
Yeah.
He
Get
would
that in there
appreciate that
too.
as well. Yeah.
That website is great. It really is like a one-stop shop
helpful.
for reaching out. And, we talk about this all the time. We get up on our soapbox and say, do reach out to your, lawmakers in Washington, D.C., and educate them on truck parking, restroom access, overtime pay, all these things. We don't talk about it as much in terms of reaching out to your state lawmakers. And, they are very receptive, and they represent fewer people.
You're the ones voting for them, so they want to,
Yeah, and most of them, they should want to talk to you,
Yeah.
and they should want to listen to you because you are the expert on these matters. And with this one in particular, it is a hot-button issue and one that they need to be aware of. So with that, I'll step off the soapbox.
right.
We will take a quick break, though. When we come back, Lindsey Trent of the Next Generation in Trucking Association, up next right here on Trucking with OOIDA. Welcome back to Trucking with OOIDA. Ashley, we talked about Lindsey Trent, the Next Generation in Trucking Association, a little bit earlier in the show. This is one of these issues that I think is an important one in terms of bringing awareness to the industry among younger people and getting them involved and interested in the industry when they are younger. So I'm looking forward to this conversation to find out what they are doing to kind of facilitate all of this. And let's not waste any time here. Lindsey Trent of the Next Generation in Trucking Association. How are you today? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here with you all.
So let's start with, I think, kind of a broad question because there may be folks out there who are not familiar with the Next Generation in Trucking Association and all you do there. So for those who are not familiar, can you kind of explain what you do?
Sure. So we are a fairly young organization. We launched 4 years ago in July, but we were all volunteers as a grassroots movement. I was working for Ryder at the time, and I'm now full-time with the association. But we really formed because we saw the need to put an emphasis on reaching the next generation and steering them towards careers in the trucking industry. And so we really have formed our organization around 4 main pillars. And one is to promote trucking careers. Well, a lot of young people don't really know about trucking. School counselors, teachers, principals. Well, we want to influence influencers in education as well as students and really educate them about all that the trucking industry entails and how many people it affects. So our other pillar is to build and enhance training programs. We work with schools that have career technical education programs or want to start them, and we help them start commercial driving programs, supply chain and logistics, and diesel mechanic programs. And we do this at the high school level and within the community college, private driving school level. It's really about helping a school brainstorm and see what would work best in their community to start CTE programs. And then we connect tomorrow's workforce with today's employees. And so when we start a school program, we need employers that are in the area to come alongside and provide field trips, do speaking engagements at the school, try to educate the next generation about all of the different opportunities in the communities in the trucking industry. And lastly, this is something that we just added this year, but it's celebrating achievements across trucking. And so earlier this year, we had a Career Catalyst Award. So companies who are doing a great job bringing new people into the industry. And right now, we just announced we have an award called the Next Top Talent. And that is where companies can nominate drivers or technicians under 30. And we are going to award some winners with the Next Top Talent Award that are doing an amazing job, new into the industry, and really transforming companies and bringing in that younger workforce.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you were founded in 2021, which as much as we don't like to think back to was
what was going on in 2021?
What was going on in 2021?
Yeah.
Wild time.
I don't think many new things started in 2021, but trucking was different. There was a huge emphasis on it. Can you just talk to me about the kind of events that led to, you co-founding this?
Yeah, so I remember distinctly, I was at a trucking conference and we were talking about this issue, right? It's something that we've always, as an industry, complained about was the aging workforce, young people not really knowing much about the industry. And somebody introduced me to a guy by the name of Dave Dine, who started a high school trucking program out of Patterson High School in Patterson, California. And the light bulb went off for me at that moment. And I was like, hey, I've got to reach out to this guy. Maybe this is the answer and a great solution to the problem that we're facing in the industry. Also, during that time, I had helped a community college start their CDL program. I serve on the local advisory board and helped my high school start their diesel tech program right through COVID. And so I had this experience with a little bit of education and workforce development, and hearing about what Dave did with high schools and really trying to develop young professional drivers to knowing about the industry and having the forefront thing being safety and professionalism. So Dave and I started talking and dreaming up this idea to create the Next Generation in Trucking Association. And here we are 4 years later, about 1 million meetings in between, and we have been doing so much. He's now in his 9th year of teaching the program at Patterson High School, and it's just been a great success. And schools are very receptive to learning about how they might be able to start a program like this at their school. The other really cool thing I wanted to tell you about Dave is he is this year's CTE Teacher of the Year for the state of California. Well, when you win your state, then you go on to maybe win your region. Well, he actually also won Region 5's CTE Teacher of the Year. And we were on stage for him to possibly win the Teacher of the Year for the entire country for CTE Teacher of the Year, the biggest award in career technical education. Unfortunately, he didn't win 1 out of 5, but being one of the finalists was so amazing, and it's given us a great spotlight within education.
Yeah, I love that. I think everything you're doing there is interesting, and obviously is, I think, filling kind of a vacuum that has been there for quite a long time. When you look at, again, recruiting the younger generation and getting them interested in trucking, I think there are a number of challenges. I would assume there are a number of challenges there. Just generally speaking, how does the younger generation view the trucking industry? Do they know much about it? I think I know some of the answers, but can you kind of talk about that and what their views are?
Honestly, they don't really know a whole lot about it unless they have a family member or a neighbor or a friend that is someone that's in the industry. But they're very interested and curious as to hey, maybe this could be a career fit for me. We're seeing a trend in young people not wanting to go to college and getting student loan debt, so they're looking for other opportunities. They see the technology in a truck. They hear about the job. It's basically a tiny house on wheels. Maybe you could travel with your pet. There's a lot of things that are very attractive for a young person, but unless they talk to somebody in the industry or get exposed to being able to sit in a truck, then they don't know, and it's not something that they know to explore. So it does take us as an industry to go in and really help do early talent development and help explore with young people that this could be a career field for them.
I'm curious, is it just like the idea of driving a truck, or do you present other, opportunities? I know there's a shortage of diesel techs. Are other jobs in the industry mentioned?
Absolutely. So we really try to encompass all of the different careers in the trucking industry. And so when I talk to a student at a career fair, I say, hey, what do you want to do? And we're involved in an organization called the Technology Student Association. And most of these students want to be engineers or IT professionals. And I say, hey, do you know you can be a data scientist in trucking that supports the supply chain? Or do you see this model truck right here? Well, think about a real truck. Engineers are the ones that make these parts better to run more efficiently. And it's really about exposing a student's mind to the fact that the supply chain is vast. There's a lot of different careers, and there's so many benefits to it, and we want you to explore what your gifts are, what your talents are, and how they might transfer to a job in trucking that makes such a difference. It's such a needed, essential job in our country.
And as you said, that conversation may be the first time they've ever heard
Yeah.
about or thought about a career in trucking. What are those conversations like? Obviously, you're going to have different reactions because you've got a whole bunch of different people out there. But the ones that kind of show an interest, what do those conversations look like?
Yeah, it's almost like a light bulb goes off. And we also know what Gen Z finds appealing about the trucking industry.
Right.
They want to be a part of a team. They want to make a difference. They care about technology. They care about the environment. And trucking is doing all of these things we're already there. We're already focused on technology. We're already trying to make trucks run better so it helps the environment. We are a part of a team, and the supply chain is very important to everyday life. And so they get really interested, and they've never thought about it before. And it is so fun to just have that one-on-one conversation and see the light bulb go off. But then I also have conversations with family generation drivers, and they say, yeah, my grandpa and my dad, they were all drivers, and I want to do that too. And I'm excited that I get the opportunity to learn about this while I'm in school. Hey, do you want to take another English class or history, or do you want to learn about being a professional driver? That sounds a lot more fun to me.
So you have that conversation, and you get these young people who are interested in it. What does that next step look like? Because once that interest gets going, obviously, if they want to pursue that path, they're going to have to take a few steps. How do you kind of help that process along?
So ideally, we're working with their school to help them start a CDL program. We try to have professional drivers and industry people when we are out doing events and at conferences so they can actually have real world conversations. We go to FFA every year, and we had the National Tank Truck Carrier Grand Champion driver, Dave Powell. He is an owner operator. He hauls fuel. And he was there able to talk to the students that wanted to learn about being a professional driver and was able to say, hey, you can actually also own your own business and be a professional driver, and tell them, like literally he would have conversations with students for hours because they were so interested and intrigued by the fact that they could be their own boss and do something that they kind of thought about doing. And it's really amazing to see these students start to connect the dots and for them to have time to have that conversation with a professional driver who owns his own business and is at the top of his class.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm curious, this, of course, is, trucking is a male-dominated industry. Do you see that, though, in recruitment and stuff? Or is this generation, do you see more females coming forward and showing an interest?
Yeah, we definitely see more females showing interest. And one of the things that we try to do is we've got a job behaviors assessment on our website, and teachers can access it for students to say, hey, let me take this 10-minute assessment to see if I have what it takes to be a safe, qualified driver. And it's not about skills, it's about behaviors and who you are intrinsically, and see if they align. And what we've found is usually if 100 people take the test and the top scorers, well, half of them are going to be women. And then we invite them to the class and they say, well, I've never thought about trucking as a career choice, but I scored high on this assessment, and maybe this is a career path that I should look into. And so we're getting women that way. And when they start to take it, they really decide, hey, I actually really like this. And I have so much respect for these young girls who are in these classes, exploring if this could be a fit for them, and really finding that they love to do this.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
High heat and low lubricity can break your diesel fuel down fast. Summer driving means crowded roads, more stress, dust, and a bigger risk of costly engine damage. Howe's Diesel Defender protects from the inside out, cleaning, lubricating, and fighting injector wear. Visit Howe'sProducts.com.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
At Truck Stop, we've built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
We're talking kind of about your direct contact with these younger folks who may be interested in trucking. I'm also curious, too, about the other side of things with carriers looking to hire new people. Are you working with carriers on ways in which they can make things a little more appealing for, younger people to come into the industry? And if so, what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. We are trying to educate the industry on how to better appeal to the next generation and what that they can do. And one of those things is you've got to build a culture that a young person wants to be a part of. And so helping them see what they need to do in terms of social media, in terms of their website, and in terms of, it's not about stock pictures and data. It's about telling personal stories and stories of, hey, I matter here. I'm not just a number, but it's a working family and we have purpose. And so really trying to help an employer understand, you hear this all the time, that work-life balance. Maybe there are some things an employer can do to make things a little better for a driver. And maybe it's, hey, let's have a pet policy. Or maybe it's, we can dispatch somebody while they're out, and instead of taking their break at home, they want to take their break at Niagara Falls and see that for the weekend.
Yeah.
And so companies are doing some really innovative things to help attract the next generation and really help retain them so that this is something that they can see themselves doing for their career.
Now, those are obviously some of the recruitment efforts that are working really well. I'm curious, though, have you seen any that don't work so well that people are still doing?
That's a great question. I think that the thing that we always hear is that you have to be honest as a recruiter and really tell them how it is. Don't sugarcoat things because that doesn't do anyone any good. And so I don't think that ever works. And we need to really kind of show, hey, this is what it's like. This is what life is like. These are the good things about it, but hey, here's some of the ugly things. And so being honest is always forefront when you're trying to recruit.
You brought something up just a little bit ago, Lindsey, in terms of retention and making the greater industry more welcoming for, not just younger people, obviously, but everybody. And I think you were on a panel, I think it was maybe June, with Louis Pugh, our executive vice president. There was somebody else there as well. I think that was in New Jersey. Is that right?
Yes, I
Yes.
think
Okay.
so.
And the idea behind that, and it was interesting to hear the three of you kind of go back and forth because you were all on the same page in terms of what we need to do. And I use we as kind of the greater we, to be more appealing to folks out there, not just younger people, but everybody. Talk about that aspect in terms of making sure that once we get somebody in the industry, we're taking care of them to the point that they want to stay there.
Yeah, and that's why I really respect Louis and his messaging, and that is, hey, we have to treat our drivers well. Mm-hmm. We have to treat them fairly. We need to give them a living wage, and they don't need to be working and waiting and not getting paid. And so shippers need to be, operating at a high level. And so that messaging is really going to help promote excellence in the industry. And that's what we are. We're a people business. And so we need to continue to make things better for our drivers and continue to lobby for their life to be better. And so that's what the message is all about. And if we want to attract young people, we have to continue that messaging and not making it a bad environment for drivers, but we've got to make it a great environment for drivers, and so they can support their families, come home safely, and have a good day at work. All of these people are taking advantage of me. Mm-hmm. The facilities are terrible, and they don't respect me as a professional driver. We've got to change that.
You're obviously working toward a goal here, and as we said, I think what you're doing there is great. And I think it's encouraging to see associations like yours doing what you're doing because it does, rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing here. Mm-hmm. What you're doing and the things that you're doing, if you were to look at a situation where all of the elements are in place to welcome people in, what does that look like? What goal are you ultimately getting to? Is it high schools, having programs like this in place all across the country, or what's the ultimate goal, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the ultimate goal in my mind, and one of our core pillars, is to help schools start these training programs, and whether it's CDL driving program, a diesel mechanic program, or a supply chain warehousing and logistics. It's giving schools the materials, the tools that they need to be able to start a program and succeed. That school is going to hire the teacher, and hopefully that teacher's had years and years of experience in the industry and can really invest in their students and teach them the proper way on how to be a great person in our industry. And so it's giving them the credentials and the skill sets that they need. So when they graduate high school, they are work ready. If they choose to go straight into the workforce, that we can send them out with confidence, knowing that they have been trained to the utmost ability and that they are ready to succeed and excited about their career path and their future. And we all know that there's so many different opportunities and career opportunities for young people and for people as they grow in their career. And it's just a matter of connecting the dots for them, for the schools, and for the teachers.
And you're clearly optimistic based on all your interactions out there. You're clearly optimistic about, what the future holds, it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think if you and your listeners were to go and meet some of these students, they would be optimistic too.
Well, that's a great reminder too. I think that's a good thing for folks out there in their everyday lives. If you're able to have a conversation with somebody to talk about the benefits and what the job is like, because it does appeal to a certain type of person. And kind of your point earlier, Gen Z, I think they've got kind of that hustle mindset, I guess, for lack of a better term. And those two things kind of line up pretty well.
Yeah, they do. And I want to go back to Dave Peligan, who's an owner-operator, who said when he goes now, because this is his second year to volunteer for us with FFA, he said, it really invigorated my purpose and my love for what I do, because I can go in there and talk to these students and be proud of who I am, what I've done with my career. And I think that if you have listeners that say, you know what, maybe I should take my truck to my local school and talk about my profession, it is actually something that is really fun. It's great to interact with students, and you should be proud of what you do, because you literally are the backbone of our country, and we could not survive as a country without you.
Amen.
So
Yep.
it is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Awesome.
And yeah, absolutely right on all points there. Real quick, Lindsey, for people listening to this, if they're interested in getting more information about Next Gen Trucking, where should they go?
Yeah, so we're on all social medias at Next Gen Truckers, and our website is nextgentrucking.org. We have a monthly newsletter. Feel free to sign up for our newsletter, and we would love to connect with you. And maybe your school wants to start a trucking program. We'd love to go in there and help them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Love what you're doing there. Really encouraged by it again. Keep up the good work, and thanks for talking with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, our thanks to Lindsey Trent for taking the time to speak with us. I'm curious, when you were in high school,
Mm-hmm.
you can think back.
It was a little while ago.
A few years
a few
ago.
years ago. 5 exactly, to be exact.
A lot of the careers that I think were talked about and whatnot, I don't remember trucking ever being one that was like recommended.
No. Yeah. And it's one of these things too. Like when I was in high school, there was a VOTEC program.
Mhm.
And I know there were, quite a few people that took part in that. And I think they have them now as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is great because, college isn't the right path for some
everybody, yeah.
people. It is the right path for some people, but not for others.
Yep.
And there are so many options out there
Mhm.
that if you're not aware of it and you're
Yeah,
not
how
aware
would-
of what it looks
How
like,
would you know? Yeah.
you wouldn't know, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's great what they're doing, the outreach,
Mhm.
and talking to these younger people who
Yeah.
might have an interest in it, but as to your point, don't even know about
Yeah,
it to
yeah.
have an interest.
And I think it's a lifestyle, like she had mentioned, that appeals to some young people who want to travel and, see the world. And obviously in a truck, you're seeing a lot of interstates, but there is the option of dropping a load and, staying for a couple of days, exploring the area.
Yeah.
That seems to be, kind of a
It's almost like
popular
a
among Gen Z
Yeah,
thing.
younger
Yeah.
people, I think, like that freedom and that idea
Yeah.
of kind of, being
A
out on their
nomad
own.
lifestyle.
So it definitely, would appeal to people, again, who may not even be thinking
Yeah.
about this. And so I think it's great that they're reaching out in this way for sure.
Yeah.
And,
I liked hearing too, her say that there were, a lot of females checking it out because
Yeah.
otherwise I don't know, as a female myself,
so-
I don't know if they consider like that could be an option.
Well, and there's still a stigma
Oh, for sure.
in a lot of
Yeah.
ways with trucking and women
Yeah.
as well too. So yeah, the more you can kind of have these conversations,
The better.
and anybody
definitely.
listening to this, obviously people in your family know what you do, but
Yeah.
if you find
If you
yourself
have the opportunity.
in a conversation, lay it out for them
Yeah.
and talk about what's good, talk about what's bad too,
Yeah.
and
Be
kind of lay it
honest.
out for
Yeah.
them and explain the situation, and it may lead to something else.
Yeah.
Speaking of something else, we're going to be back tomorrow, Ashley, with
Yes, we
another
are.
program. Looking forward to this one. We're going to speak with
Yeah.
Ohio State Representative Jack Daniels. You might remember Tom Balzer of the
Mm-hmm.
Ohio Trucking Association brought his name up a little while ago when we spoke with them about the Ohio Trucking Caucus.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels, State Rep Daniels, is a truck driver, also a state legislator, so we'll talk to him about that. And then
Then we have-
Randy Gilliard, right?
Yes. Operation Sideswipe, something I've always heard of in this industry. We're going to kind of pick his brain, see, what the situation is there and what his experience is there.
Looking forward to it. Today's episode of Trucking with OOIDA was brought to you by a dedicated team of people that includes Jim Fetzer, Keegan White, Tennille Flick, and Kim Boren.
Got thoughts? We'd love to hear them. Call us at 1-800-324-6856 and leave us a message. Or you can send us an email to podcast@ooida.com and we might include it on the show.